Welcome to Minister Ben Willis Blast Off Podcast. Uncut, unapologetic, straight with no chaser. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, all of the good stuff. Again, please subscribe to the channel. Today I'm doing a live remote. I'm out here in Chicago, August 26, 2026. And I'm in my sanctuary, football stadium, football field. That's where I'm at. And I'm just where I find my peace and my comfort right here. And in fact, can you show this the stadium is in the football field, as beautiful as it is beautiful to me because this is where, again, like I say, this is my safe haven. I come out here for peace and tranquility, and I love that. And in fact, if I died today, bury me into the end zone because that's where I visited a lot as a player. I visit the end zone a lot. So yeah, I would be at peace if I was buried in the end zone. In fact, a real quick story about my football prowesses or whatever the case may be. You know, I played football, high school, grammar school, and in college. But I went to played semi-pro football. And I did that for 4 years, which is very, very interesting. Then I wind up running my own football team, my own semi-pro football team. It was called the Blue Island Cardinals. And I was the youngest head coach, general manager, and owner. I was the only black head coach, general manager, and owner in the Midwest. And how that came about was me and a friend of mine, while we were playing semi-pro football, it became very taxing on me because what happens is when you play in semi-pro football, you still have to work. You have to do a 9-to-5 job, and so I was doing that. Had a 9-to-5 job, and playing ball, I started getting injured, and so that was taxing on me because I didn't have time to work out. I was working 9 to 5, and then I go play ball. And as as an athlete, you must prepare your body and everything like that. So at one point in time, I'm going to work. I had sprained a knee, separated a shoulder, and one day my wife looked at me and she said, you keep getting injured. We got a mortgage. And I said, okay, yeah, I think I better retire. Now, how I came to that place is playing semi-pro football. And I want to give a shout out to all those guys that do play the game and play semi-pro football. It's like in between. You play high school ball. You're fortunate enough to go to college or get a college scholarship. And then after that, you're still a young man. You're 22 years old, 21, 22 years old. And you want to continue to keep playing. And if the professional in the NFL don't call you, then you still want to play. Then you go to the semi-pro ranks and you play there. And these guys are just as talented and just as gifted. So, for those guys that continue their football career, and I've seen some dominant players in the league and across the country. I ran this team called after I retired, I ran this team called the Blue Island Cardinals in Blue Island, Illinois. And it was a friend of mine, and we decided to run a team. We got these coaches, and we recruited out of, the south suburb areas. Blue Island, Alsip, Midlothian, Markham, and we were a bad team. I mean, we got crushed. In fact, we lost every game we played. I'm talking about every game we played. And the thing is, the guys were very happy. They would beat the hell out of us. And here, my team was happy and nice and jovial and everything else. And I'm like, that don't feel good to me. And my partner, he was the same way. And my coaches were the same way. So the following year, I fired everybody. I got rid of my partner. I got rid of the coaches. I kept 2 players out of 55 players because they were nice guys. We had lost one game about 50 points, and the referee said we're going to continue to keep the clock rolling because they might score 100 points on you. And my guys, they didn't care nothing about it. Well, I don't like to lose to nobody. I don't like to lose to nobody. In fact, I'll tell you, if I ran a 100-yard dash against my mother, I'm trying to blow her doors off because I believe in winning at all times. Now, after the race, I'd be like, hey, Mom, you know, you know how it is. But I didn't like that at all. And so we lost, and I got rid of everybody. And I started all over again. I say, these are nice suburban guys. They're real nice. So I started recruiting. And I went to the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper. The editor name was Brian Hanley. And I talked to him, and I took out a half a page in the back of the Sun-Times recruiting players out of Chicago. Then I went to the Chicago Tribune, and I spoke to editor Cooper Rollo, and he put a page in the Chicago Tribune about me recruiting players. I went out to the Blue Island Sun-Standard newspaper, and the columnist there, he asked me, he says, man, you starting all over again? He said, you don't have no players at all? He says, isn't that a lot of pressure? And I told him, I make love to pressure. I'm with all of that. I'm with all the smoke that they're gonna bring. In fact, I'm climbing up the chimney looking for the smoke, okay? So I recruited a bunch of dogs out of Chicago Public League. And these guys were straight dogs. These guys were straight dogs. And like I said, I took over the reign as the head coach and the offensive coordinator. And I molded that team in my image. I'm trying to take your head out and take your heart out your chest. That's where it is. And that's what I got. I know some of the guys that I can still remember these guys now. My wide receiver, Julius Brumfield, 00. He was flank out to the right side of the field, and all we would do was send him go routes. In other words, he put his hand up in the air, and the quarterback, just send that ball out. He's gonna get it, and it's gonna be 6 points. That's my man Julius Brumfield. I mean, he's gonna every time I won. Now, one thing about Julius though, he ain't going across the middle of the field. Julius not going. If we need 5 yards square in, don't pass the ball to Julius because he is not going to get that. He's not going to even reach for the ball. But if you send that thing down that line, he's coming up with it. Period. My man John Sago, strong safety, number 19. I seen him hit anything that come across the middle. Anything that come across the middle is his. He's trying to tear his head off. I remember we played a game against Stateville Penitentiary. Yes, we went into Stateville Penitentiary and played. And we were in there, and you got the gun towers and everything in the penitentiary, because Stateville had a football team, and they became honorary members of our league. Of course, they didn't have no away games because they were in the penitentiary. So we'd all had to go there to play them. The other teams in the league had to go there. So I remember one time the quarterback spent out, and he was doing a sweep, and John Sago hit the guy and planted him in the ground. And the guy jumped up and told John, he said, and we can hear him, he said, that ain't do nothing to me. I got 45 years. That didn't do nothing to me. And John said, yeah, you come across the middle again, and your 45 years will be up. That's what kind of dogs I had. I had R.L. Miller was a tight end. Mike Ramirez, a good tackle. I had Terry Winslow. Terry Winslow was a gifted runner. Terry was like 6'3", 215, 220 pounds. He ran a 4.40. All I do is give him a pitch out, and all of a sudden, next you know, he's gone up the sideline. He's gone. I'm talking about a big dude that's moving. I mean, I'm talking about he's flying. I had dogs, man. I had dogs on my team. Buddy Myers from Joliet. I had some Steve Broadway, another good running back out of Joliet. I had great players. So the thing is about me is that this football is my, like I say, it's my sanctuary. I come out here and I get peace out here, you know. And I remember the players that played for me and what they gave to me and what I put into them. And I loved everything about that. And I wish them guys well. I give a shout out to one of my coaches, Rick Gentry. Rest in peace. He was a good coach. I gotta give it to him, but God has still blessed me to be here and to talk about that and get this done. Something else I want to segue to. I want to segue to something else. I want to bring light to a lot of the black young men and women being hung from trees down there in Mississippi. People are not talking about that. They're not highlighting that. They're still hanging black people, young men and women. At least, I think within the past 12 months, there have been about 8 hangings. I'm going to bring light to this type of thing. We have to be mindful of these types of things that's going on. We have to be mindful of this. Those are big concerns of mine. I love my people. I love all people, but I love black people. I love my people 100%. Anybody that know me will know that, and I champion my people. I want to bring light also, as I'm paying attention. I am also a minister, and I have to look at this weather. Here I'm in Chicago. This is August, and usually in August it's always like 80, 90 degrees, and it's hot and it's humid. But we've had torrential waters and rain. We've had tornadoes here in Chicago, and it's flattening buildings. It's flattening houses. It's destroying things in its path. In Indiana, in Chicago, the power is out. People are suffering. The trees are being uprooted out the ground. We're not talking about branches being broken. We're talking about trees being uprooted out of the ground with the grass still around it. You look at the beautiful vacation spot of Hawaii. They're flooded. The torrential rains there, destroying Hawaii. Look at the massive hurricanes there. I just think could be God's chastisement to the human family. I'm a believer. And when God speaks in the way of the weather, it destroys everything. Destroys it all. God also said, it says that I can get rid of all of you and create new people. And that's easy for me to do. So be mindful of that. 1 minute you're living this way, and next minute it's gone. And there's nothing you could do about it. I just want to, get this off my chest and talk about this because it was a concern of mine, and I had a chance to sit here. I want to give a shout out to my cameraman, Vaughn. He's a brilliant young man. I like what he's doing. He's a father. He has a beautiful little daughter. And again, like I want to say this, black men are in their children's lives. They're in their children's lives. It's a statistic that states that out of black men, white, Hispanic, and Asian, black men are in their children's lives more than any of those other races. And you can look it up. I'm not just talking smack, but you can look it up. But I want to thank my viewing and listening audience for tuning in to Minister Ben Willis Blast Out Podcast, uncut, unapologetic, straight with no chaser. Thank y'all for supporting me. Thank you, and see you soon. That's it.